pulled out from under the rubble of pulverized buildings makes the heart cry out. Who, after all, can bear to see children paying the price of a totally uncalled for provocation from Hamas? Viewers, Israel has a right to self-defense, there's no doubt about it, especially after it suffered grievously on October 2nd. Not only were its innocent citizens hunted down like animals in cold blood, but several Jews are still being held hostages by the Hamas. Let's not forget that. October 7th was a red letter day in the recent history of Israel. Some in Israel are calling it the worst massacre in a very long time. Even so, Israel's government and its army is no terror equivalent of Hamas, and thus must not only do justice, but also must be seen to be doing justice in its pursuit of its legitimate military objectives. It's very important. And from all accounts, the Israeli army has been taking a large number of precautions, warning citizens, Gazans, and anyone who cares to listen where they are going to be targeting in advance, so that any Gazan who might be in a particular installation has time to leave. They've also been urging Gazans to move southwards. They've even opened a humanitarian corridor leading out of the north of Gaza into the south. But the Hamas, viewers, is proving to be a cowardly, unscrupulous adversary that thinks little of pushing ordinary Gazans into the line of fire, especially children and women, viewers. As bodies of innocents are being pulled out of hospital complexes, mosques and schools, the Israeli army is being accused of war crimes, of targeting public institutions with little regard for innocent lives. Now, viewers, how does the Israeli army approach this when it knows that the Hamas is hiding in a civilian building, or it has turned a civilian establishment into a military garrison from where it is going to continue to launch attacks into Israel, endangering ordinary Israeli lives? Does it turn its other cheek? Does it stop? Now, the Israeli army, viewers, is hitting back at its detractors by releasing countless videos to show that it isn't hunting civilians but terrorists that are hiding in civilian buildings. A hospital, for example, is a hideout, and you can see that, viewers, to the left of your screens. You can see that there is a shaft on the hospital premises that leads to an underground tunnel from where Hamas terrorists emerge to fire missiles, to take on Israelis, to fire missiles, viewers, into Israel. A mosque has been weaponized. On its grounds, the Israeli army has uncovered missile launchers. Look at the pictures in the middle of your screen. There you can see the battery of missile launchers, viewers, and electricity cables and other infrastructure that is clearly of a military nature. It is using the cover of hospitals and mosques, of holy places and sacred ground, which it knows will not be targeted, to launch offensives against Israel or hide, perhaps even hostages. Even schools have been used to launch counterattacks. They've been turned into weapons dumps. The IDF, for example, went into the home of an Hamas commander, and when it entered, viewers, it saw photographs of militarized children. Yes, viewers, not only the houses are being turned into weapons dumps, not only are mosques being turned into places from which the Hamas is striking back at Israel by launching missiles, but even hospitals are being used to either seek refuge or to host hostages. The Israel army has little choice in the matter. Not neutralizing these hideouts defeats the purpose of the military objective. Now here's IDF spokesperson going into details of how Hamas is deliberately hiding behind its own civilian population, children included, viewers. Watch this.
This is how it looks after the fighting that was fighting here. Hamas used the hospital for fighting. These are our troops that are now, they're combat engineers and special forces, and they're searching the ground looking for a tunnel shaft, which is here, circled in red. You can see a D9 bulldozer that is excavating and clearing it. That's the tunnel opening, concealed with some kind of cover. And soon you'll be able to see the entrance itself. Here you see the opening. This is the grounds of the hospital itself. And there's a combat position, a tunnel, and we know that there is a whole tunnel system underneath that hospital. And you can see it in daylight as well. Now, unfortunately, that's the shaft, the entrance. And that was used by Hamas to fight against Israel, again, the beginning of the clip. Why is this important? Because hospitals and other humanitarian facilities are supposed to enjoy special protection. But what Hamas is doing is that they're violating that special protection and using it for combat purposes, forcing us to operate there. And as we have shown, they've also built infrastructure, combat infrastructure under it. We saw from the air in 2010 these very distinct domes. You see the domes here? There's no business for concrete domes in anything that has to do with the hospital. The only thing that you need concrete domes like this is to support tunnels, because the biggest threat for tunnels is that they'll collapse underground, and you have this U-shaped dome that rests upon slabs of concrete on the side. That's what Hamas was building, and they had all of the construction material lined up and ready. And as we can see, that's the area. And as we go closer and we look at these areas again, this is 2020, so quite a lot of construction has been made. And we see two compounds. This is the Indonesian hospital, which now is fully built. The tunnel shaft is here. We'll come back to that soon. Then they dismantled the concrete factory because it was no longer needed. And now we have two compounds that are part of the Indonesian hospital. No more Hamas infrastructure above ground, because everything has moved below ground. And we have hospitals above ground and Hamas below ground.
By ensuring the death of its own citizens, civilians, the Hamas is hoping to turn the tide of sentiment in its favor. If not in its favor, then at least in favor of a ceasefire. The idea is to earn a reprieve, to regroup, to rearm, and perhaps hit back, perhaps even buy time to take the hostages somewhere else, viewers. Its tactic is working. Many are falling for the gambit, for Hamas's gambit, and accusing Israel of committing war crimes. Others are calling for a ceasefire. Yes, viewers, Indian politicians are leading the charge, and let me run you through what they are saying. You have Priyanka Gandhi Vadra, who says, "Ashamed India abstained from backing a ceasefire. Can't watch in silence as humanity is pulverized." Mallikarjun Kharge of the Congress says actions of IDF in civilian areas are unacceptable. The siege of Gaza Strip must be stopped. The siege of Gaza Strip must be stopped. Actions are unacceptable. Viewers, they have completely bought one side of the story to now pressure the Indian government to back off, to call for a ceasefire, to impress upon Israel to do so, even though Mr. Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, has said that he will look at the option of ordering a pause, but only after the Hamas releases hostages. Remember, viewers, we are forgetting that more than 200 hostages, children included, innocents, are today hanging between life and death. No one knows where they are. They are being held by a terror group that does not pay any heed to the rules of engagement. Sitaram Yechuri says abstention shows subservience to US imperialism. Modi government negating India's support for Palestine. Israel's war is not with Hamas but with Palestine. Israel says that also, viewers. It says that its war is with Hamas, not Palestine. Don't these people hear this? Pinarayi Vijayan, another top left leader, chief minister. India complicit by not condemning Gaza massacre. Israeli barbarism must be stopped immediately. Are they forgetting that the Indian government is sending relief and supplies and has also called upon the various stakeholders to exercise restraint? Sharad Pawar, another very tall leader, has said India has never supported Israel's cause. The entire land belongs to Palestine. The world seems to have forgotten, viewers, that by pressuring Israel into a ceasefire, it is forcing Tel Aviv to give up on its very legitimate military objectives. If Israel is not able to prosecute the war, other terrorist groups ready to adopt the Hamas playbook will feel emboldened. The Hamas is no guardian of Palestinian interests, let me tell you. In fact, it cares little for Palestinian well-being. Here are hard facts that establish this. In 2006, Gaza polls during that time, Fatah leaders expelled after Hamas's victory. No elections have taken place in Gaza since Hamas victory. A reign of terror has been unleashed. 180 have been sentenced to death. 33 executed since 2007. And viewers, these are declared killings. We don't know what is happening in those tunnels. We don't know, viewers. We don't even know, for example, where certain dissidents disappear. 2009 Human Rights Watch report, 18 extrajudicial killings of Fatah leaders. The cover of war to kill political opponents. This is what has been said by them. 60 were subjected to kneecapping torture, viewers. Torture. All instrumentalities are being used by Hamas. In 2015, Amnesty reports that Hamas accused of political assassinations. 2014, Gaza war used for extrajudicial killings, arrest, torture and execution of Fatah leaders. All of this is documented. Victims accused of collaborating with Israel. Any pretext is used to whisk away any opponent. Viewers, there are reports of how the Hamas is not allowing ordinary Gazans to flee. At gunpoint, they are forced to go back into areas where Israel has declared publicly that it is going to target. Why, viewers? Why? Terror group tag from the US, UK, EU, Canada have declared Hamas a terror group. Now let's, viewers, go to our big debate and ask whether this entire characterization of Hamas being the victim, of Israel being malignant, is right. Hamas is endangering its own, deliberately putting them in the line of fire to turn the tide of sentiment. Are we all buying it? Should we be buying it? The big debate coming up.
Hello, Moto.
Viewers, first, for a moment, let's not forget that innocents are dying. It doesn't matter whether they're Palestinians or Israelis, they're human beings first. And we should all, for a few seconds, remember our commitment as human beings first to ensure against death. But that doesn't mean that we can't ask questions. We should continue to ask questions. And I want to first begin with Shehzad Poonawala, the Bharatiya Janata Party spokesperson, the national spokesperson of the party. Shehzad Poonawala, today, your government, the NDA government, the BJP government is being accused of becoming an accomplice in the murder and the silencing of humanity. How do you respond to this, sir?
In fact, Rahul, exactly 1 month ago, humanity was slaughtered on this very day when 1,400 innocent civilians were killed by a terrorist group in an act of unprovoked barbarism. When babies were killed, when women, senior citizens were killed, when they were taken hostages. In fact, even people who had nothing to do with this war, including Nepalis and Thai people, were also killed and butchered and raped. So, in a sense, today is a day that anybody who says that they speak up for humanity should tell us why it has taken them 1 month to not issue a categorical condemnation of the actions of Hamas. And this includes the Congress Party, the CWC resolution, the article written by Sonia Gandhi, or the AIMPLV, which has actually justified the actions of Hamas by saying it's a swabhavik pratikriya, natural reaction, or the left parties which have said that the precondition of calling Israel a terrorist state is necessary in order to condemn Hamas, whether it's Mr. M.A. Baby, Mr. Munir, or the entire rank and file, including K.T. Jalil and Swaraj. All of these people have actually tried and defended the actions of Hamas by equating Hamas with the Palestinian cause. Look, there is no doubt that India continues to stand by the Palestinian cause, but that is not in question here. What is in question here is an action of terrorists and barbarism that was perpetrated on the people of Israel. Now, to draw a false equivalence between Israel and Hamas is the most egregious thing to do, because Israel, unlike Hamas, does not go and target civilians and babies. Israel, unlike Hamas, is not holding people hostage. Israel, unlike Hamas, is not going and finding a rave party to go and capture women and rape them. And to even equate Hamas to Palestine is actually more disgusting for the people of Palestine, because West Bank has no Hamas. People of Palestine have been taken hostage by people of Hamas. People of Palestine have been killed by the Hamas. So therefore, to even equate Hamas with Palestine is actually doing something which is not acceptable to the people of Palestine. But here is my question to Mr. Sanjay Jha and those who continue to defend the actions of Hamas one way or the other. If this is about innocent lives, why haven't you come out and taken a categorical position against Hamas without putting the precursor of the Palestinian-Israeli issue? Two, if this is about occupied land, then Mr. Sanjay Jha, occupation is being done by the Chinese on Indian soil and they kill more Muslims than any other country in the world. Why don't you take out a protest against the Chinese? You will not do that. And thirdly, if you are on the principle of saving humanity, then please tell us categorically why haven't you condemned Hamas without any if and but. On all these three parameters, Sanjay Jha and his ilk are found wanting because vote bank की ऐसी है प्यास, प्यारा लगता है इनको Hamas.
Sanjay Jha, would you like to respond? Because that's a fact. The Congress leadership hasn't come out and unequivocally condemned by naming Hamas.
Okay, Rahul, you gave him a lot of time. I would like you to kind of reciprocate that gesture, and I will completely debunk a lot of fake news that has been used by the gentleman who spoke before me. Number one, let your viewers know that the man who supported Hamas, who said in his own party meeting in 2019 that funding Hamas, supporting Hamas is part of Israel's strategy to keep the Palestinian cause divided and fractured. The divide and rule policy was actually an Israeli policy, and Netanyahu is somebody who is known to actually have practiced it. So if today Hamas is become a dangerous threat to Israel, and everybody has condemned what happened on October 7, the people responsible for it is the government of Israel, is Mr. Netanyahu himself. Point number one. Point number two, right to self-defense. I think everybody will agree to that. But, you talked of Congress leaders. I'm going to quote to you the United Nations Secretary General, who actually in this matter supersedes even the President of the United States. Unfortunately, politics doesn't allow him to do that. He's gone on record to say that what Israel is doing is not different from genocide and a war crime. So the Congress party is echoing exactly what the UN Secretary General has said. Third, since when did the right to self-defense become the right to bomb ambulances, to bomb refugee camps, to bomb hospitals? Look at the number of hospitals which have been destroyed. Forget the one controversial one on which there are two sides of the coin. But here is the truth. Look at the data. The principle of proportionality is meant to be a part of international law. And one of the aspects of that, the defining quintessential form of the principle of proportionality is that in fulfilling your military objective, you shall not allow innocent civilians to die. Look at the numbers. 10,000 plus Palestinians killed, 10,000 plus, 4,000 of them are children, 1.5 million civilians displaced. And look at the next two data. 36 journalists killed, and the United Nations has lost 89 of its people thanks to the brutal bombing being done by Israel. And here is the truth. Here is the hard truth that the BJP will never understand, because they use foreign policy to play domestic politics. But the truth is this, that India has become, because of its complete subservience to American foreign policy, like a vassal state of the Americans. And let me give you an example, a very simple example. Since Shehzad told me that we have not mentioned Hamas, let me ask him, has Narendra Modi or Jaishankar mentioned Hamas? Have any of them mentioned Hamas? And the truth is, they haven't. Because he said here that Hamas is a terrorist organization. Of course, its manifestations have been terrorist.
Okay.
Nobody's denying it. But here is the truth.
Right.
Here is the truth, Rahul. And just let me take 30 seconds more. That as far as Hamas is concerned, today, if there are elections in the West Bank, Hamas will win it. And what nobody will tell you is that, Rahul, you talk of Gaza. I will give you an example. Why are over 100 people killed in the West Bank? That is genocide. That is war crime. What has the West Bank and the Palestinian Authority done to lose 100 people during these attacks?
Okay.
And therefore,
30 seconds up.
No, last line.
No, it's, yeah, last.
Can anybody ignore 75 years of being denied their statehood?
Okay,
And
so
16
one
years
very
of
quick
siege?
point. Just one quick point. Sanjay Jha, you talked about how Netanyahu propped, the Hamas, etc., etc. Of course, money was brought to the Hamas's door, no doubt, from Qatar, etc., etc. The hope was that the Hamas would reform itself in power, and I'll bring Mr. Engelmayer into this. He can explain
So the
that
divide
to us.
and rule
No,
policy
one
now.
second. I want to ask you, the Congress party propped separatists in Kashmir. You engaged them. The left hugged them. Was that a legitimization of terror attacks, which the separatists constantly supported on the Indian state? I'm sure not. That was an attempt to perhaps come out with some sort of a political breakthrough. So be careful about what you're saying, because 5 fingers point back at you when you point a finger at somebody else. Why were you then speaking to separatist elements, Yasin Maliks of the world, who butchered Hindus and bragged about it on TV? You did it because you thought that you could actually have a political breakthrough. Yes or no? Just say yes or no, Sanjay Jha.
Rahul.
Just yes or no.
No. One
Just
minute,
yes or no.
Rahul, let's not
yes
compare.
Or no.
Let's not
compare.
apples and
You see,
oranges
viewers,
here.
I am comparing
The
terror with
Israeli-
terror.
Why are
I
you
am not
defending
comparing
the Israeli
apples with
government?
oranges. I am
Why are
comparing
you
terrorists
defending
with
Netanyahu?
terrorists. We
Why
don't
are
want
you
to do
defending
that because
Netanyahu?
we are bothered about vote banks.
Why are you defending Netanyahu?
I am not defending
Why are
anybody,
you
sir.
defending the
I am only
Israeli
picking up on a
defense
point.
forces who
I will
called
defend
Palestinians
those
as
who
human
take on
animals?
terrorism anywhere in the world,
Why
and
did
I
you-
will
why are
defend
you
Netanyahu
defending
if he's going to be
Israel?
taking on terrorism anywhere
Why
in the
are you
world, because we are
defending
bled by the
Israel when
same
they called
terrorism.
Palestinians
Okay, I don't want to
as
speak
human
over you.
animals?
Secondly, viewers,
No, they called them
one
as
second.
human animals.
Secondly, Sanjay
That
Jha,
was
you invoke the
disgusting.
principle of proportionality. Has Israel kidnapped, raped, maimed, burnt in their cots, in cold blood children? No. It hasn't taken any children hostages, viewers. It hasn't gone there, and it is still not taking anyone hostage. In fact,
It's
it
got
is asking
9,000
civilians to
political
leave,
prisoners. There are
to
9,000
vacate.
political prisoners
Anyhow,
in the
let me
jails
open
in
this up.
Israel.
Let me open this up. I am not
There are
sitting here.
9,000 political
I am only
prisoners
bringing
in
out
Israel.
2 examples, viewers, of the infirmity of the arguments that certain people are making. J. Engelmayer, I want to bring you in. You're the publisher of the Judean. I want to ask you, is Israel today committing war crimes? I want Sushant Sareen to come in right after. And I want to ask you, J. Engelmayer, is it guilty of war crimes? Is it doing what Hamas has done to it? Has it become a terror state? Because that's the narrative in some quarters in our country.
Including the United Nations Secretary General.
The United Nations actually is a useless organization.
Useless.
And the fact that
It looked the other way in Bosnia. It looks the other way in Rwanda. It looked everywhere except for the facts. In Iraq, you should know better. And it looked nowhere when it came to Kashmir. So viewers, let's not talk about some sold out organization called the United Nations. Dump it. It needs reform. And anyone who's clinging on to it like Nehru did, well, sorry. But let me bring in Jay Engelmeyer. Yes, Jay Engelmeyer.
I just want to add to that, Ruhul, that United Nations last Thursday appointed the Iranians as head of the Human Rights Forum, which alone should just disqualify the United Nations from any legitimacy whatsoever. That being said, no, Israel is not committing war crimes. Israel is doing everything it possibly can in order to save civilians, to get civilians out. It's been proven. The videos up on your screen, some of them actually show Hamas blocking the path of citizens going down. Israel actually freed that, opened that path today, opened that corridor. You can see videos today of people going down, massive amounts of people going down from the center to the south with Israeli protection. A lot of them are holding white flags. Israel is not bombing them. Israel has no interest in harming the Palestinian population. Israel has an interest in getting rid of Hamas. Now, you, Mr. Jah, made an accusation about Prime Minister Netanyahu, and whatever you might think of him politically, the fact of the matter is that through his tenure as Prime Minister, the man has always, in some cases, given in to Hamas and Hamas demands. We've traded thousands of prisoners for one guy. We've traded our security in terms of rocket fire for bags of cash so they'd stop. Just remember, on October 6th, there was a ceasefire in place already. We had a ceasefire from the last confrontation. Didn't seem to stop Hamas from coming in and doing what they did. And not only did it not stop Hamas from coming in, it didn't stop the other militant groups, as well as many, many thousands of civilians from coming in and looting and pillaging the communities that have been decimated. I think you need to understand that this is not a war against the Palestinian people. It's a war against Islamic extremism, and Hamas right now is holding the banner for Islamic extremism. And if you don't want to see that, then I don't know where you're looking at right now, because up until this point, everything Israel's done has been transparent. We've allowed the reporters to come on in to see the actual carnage being done. We claim, you guys, a lot of people claim that the carnage never happened. So Israel goes ahead and puts together a 47-minute video, puts it in front of 100 different reporters, and everybody could see what's done. And still, it's still not enough. We dropped flyers. We a roof knock with bombs on buildings. We actually have videos of pilots holding back from dropping bombs because they see civilians in the area. So I'm not really quite sure. I'm not really quite sure what you say Israel's trying to do, but I do want to make one quick point. You can't go ahead and say that 10,000 people have died in Gaza as a result of this if, after October 7th, 1 month ago today, Israel still has not counted all the dead from that day. So how do you, when a bomb drops on a building and the building collapses, how do you know how many people were in that building if you haven't been able to extract everybody? You don't. The numbers are coming out, are being provided by Hamas, by the so-called Palestinian Health Ministry in Gaza, which again is Hamas. And I think that's an important point for people to understand. No one's going to know the numbers until Hamas allows the Red Cross in to do an assessment and for everybody to be counted.
Okay. Sushant Sareen.
Rahul,
one second. Let everyone else have an opportunity to at least state their case, and I'll come back to everybody. But Sushant Sareen, how do you see this absolute explosion now of criticism against Israel? Is it deserved?
Not at all. I think the criticism is misplaced, it's misdirected, and I think it's motivated simply because I don't even expect any condemnation, because I know any condemnation of what happened on October 7th by many of these people is merely lip service and virtue signaling, nothing more than that. They don't even feel it. Partly because it doesn't get them votes. And what is happening right now, at least insofar as the Congress Party and the communists and others are concerned, I think they are hankering for Muslim votes, and that is why they are taking a certain position. It has nothing to do with what the Indian stand has been or not been. I think that's utter nonsense, and I don't buy that. Number one. Number two, to accuse Israel of carrying out war crimes on the basis of what the UN Secretary General says, I find that really touching in innocence. The UN Secretary General, the current one especially, is a clown of the highest order. You look at the kind of nonsensical stuff he has gone to Pakistan and said about India. Unless, of course, Mr. Sanjay Jha, being a congressman, can simply endorse every drivel that the UN Secretary General has said about India sitting in Pakistan, or the certificates he has given to China on a range of human rights abuses. Mr. Jha is certainly entitled to that. And I also find it very touching that Mr. Jha, whose party was responsible for over 30,000 deaths in Punjab because of this so-called divide and rule policy which they talk about, by propping up a Bhindranwale like terrorist and fueling that entire Khalistani movement, for him to talk about Hamas and what Netanyahu was doing, again, very rich coming from them. But Rahul, on very, very specific things, you know, words like genocide, words like war crimes are being bandied about so loosely. Number one, it is a war crime if you are using a hospital and putting up defensive or your command and control centers in a hospital. It is a war crime. If you are hiding behind civilians, it is a war crime. If you are taking terrorists from one place to another in an ambulance, then that ambulance is a legitimate target. It is not a war crime to target that ambulance. On the casualty figures, I think Mr. Engelmeyer has said the right thing. All these figures, it's like, you know, the Pakistanis saying every year they raise the number of casualties in Kashmir by 10,000. Last couple of years, it's by a couple of thousand. Without any evidence, without any proof, nothing. They just raise the numbers. So Hamas has been raising the numbers by every 400-500 every day or every week and reached a figure. Nobody has seen the bodies. Nobody has seen the funerals. One has only heard the numbers, and one has seen certain footage. Some of it must be real, but some of it is very clearly Pallywood, as it's called. The other thing is, in the case of Israel, when they are carrying out their military operations, at least they are saying that they want to minimize casualties, and they try and give warning so that civilians are not injured. They are not deliberately targeting civilians. What is Hamas doing? When they are firing that barrage of rockets, they are actually doing it, and they don't give a damn whom it hits. Whether it hits a civilian, whether it hits a hospital, whether it hits a school, they don't care. They are randomly sending all those rockets. And finally, on the West Bank, yes, there have been a number of casualties, but all those casualties have been because of violence which has been carried out there. Some of it, of course, has been blamed, and very rightly so, on Israeli settlers who have carried out certain actions which cannot be defended under any circumstance. But a bulk of those casualties have happened because of a law and order issue, because of violence which has broken out, and that is why those killings have happened. Those have not happened that people went and killed in cold blood like what Hamas did on October 7th. Sorry, that has not happened.
Isa Amro, let me bring you in. You're an activist. If Israel is a brutish terror state, why did Hamas dig tunnels for itself and not add ordinary Palestinians? If it is out to eliminate all Palestinians, then why is Hamas using the tunnels and not the ordinary Palestinians? Why did they make these tunnels for themselves? Point one. How is it that Muslims are living in Israel? Can you name number of Jews living in Gaza right now? Except for those hostages? What does that tell you? And sir, if Israel is like Hamas, a terror state, how is it that Gazans were working in Israel, in people's homes?
Okay. I hope you give me enough time to explain a lot of things.
Of course.
I am from the West Bank. I'm living under the Palestinian Authority control. I am stateless. We don't have a state. Israel is refusing to give us equal rights. They don't. We live under occupation. We live under apartheid, according to Amnesty International, according to B'Tselem, according to all the human rights organizations in the world. It's apartheid. I live under the Israeli military law. The Israeli settlers, they are my neighbors. They live under the Israeli civilian law. In the last year, hundreds of attacks from the Israeli settlers toward Palestinians. The Israeli government was described by many experts and many Israelis as the extremist, and it has Ben-Gvir, Smotrich, and Netanyahu are very, very far right wing, and they were calling to destroy Palestinian villages, Palestinian houses, Palestinian cities. Openly, they were calling about that. Something else very important: house demolition is going on in the West Bank. More and more settlements, settler violence, army violence, that's going on. The occupation is going on, and the apartheid is going on. Let's talk about October 7th. Me personally, I am very well known human rights defender who is acting non-violently against everything. October 7th, I was tortured for 10 hours, me, Isa, beaten, attacked by Israeli soldiers and Israeli settlers. I was evicted from my house on October 20th. I was attacked in my house many, many times by soldiers and settlers. There are huge wave of violence from the Israeli army and Israeli settlers. You didn't mention what the Israeli army is doing to the Palestinians.
Right.
You didn't mention what the Israeli settlers are doing to the Palestinians by many, many human rights organizations. Even the State Department described many acts of settlers in the last year as terrorist attacks, as pogroms against Palestinians. And let's talk about the main cause of the problem. Why we talk about the symptoms? The main cause of the problem is the Israeli occupation, is the Israeli apartheid, and the Israeli Jewish supremacy. Israel is not a democracy. Israel is an apartheid state. This is something very important. You should tell your audience about it. I want you to mention all the human rights reports.
Can I ask you a counter question,
what
Isa
Israel
Saab?
doing to the Palestinians?
Can I ask you a
Let me
counter
talk
question?
about Gaza now.
Yeah.
Please, give me some time.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
want to explain
Please,
to the
yes.
audience, not to
Yes.
you, to the audience,
Right,
I want
right.
you to be very neutral with me.
Yeah, yeah.
You showed a lot of fake videos about the hospitals, the Indonesian hospital. You showed UN, and a lot of neutral experts showed that the videos were fake, and that hole is not a tunnel. Go and really study, search well before you show any video. And many videos from the army showed many videos. It was fake. It was proved by, it was, denounced. The New York Times showed that it's fake. UK media showed that it's fake. Israeli media showed it's fake. Many, many videos about Gazans. Nobody in Gaza is safe. South, North. I have a lot of videos for casualties. People were killed when they were fleeing in the safe corridor Israel is talking. Now Israel is preventing food, preventing electricity, preventing medical aid. We are not talking about arms. We are not talking about anything. We are talking about food for 2.3 million people. We are talking about medical aid for 2.3 million people. We are talking about electricity, fuel for 2.3. What is the food related to the war? Who prevents food? Why they are preventing food to the Gazans to receive food? This is a war crime.
But Mr. Amra, can I ask you?
Please talk about that.
Mr. Amro, can I ask you a question? That's why you're there to answer and you to speak. Yes, Shadat Punara wants to make a quick point, and after that I want to come back to Mr. Amro. Yes.
Can I ask Mr. Amra a few questions?
Yeah.
First of all, Israel does not deny the existence of a Palestinian state, but Hamas and most of the Arab countries want Israel obliterated from the face of the earth. And therefore, Mr. Amra, I want to ask you one. Is Hamas, which you've been saying that it's elected by the people of Gaza, is it a genocidal apartheid creating body? Secondly, can I please ask you, Mr. Amro, where is the 140,000 Jews who are living in Algeria? Where are the 75,000 Jews who are living in Egypt? Where are the 135,000 Jews who are living in Iraq? As far as I know, the 20% Arabs are still living in Israel. So what would you categorize that as? As far as blocking medical aid and electricity and other things are concerned, 3 sides of Gaza are surrounded by Israel. The 4th side is surrounded by Egypt. Why doesn't Egypt open up the Rafah border and take in all the refugees if such a human right atrocity is being carried out by the state of Israel upon the Gazians? By the way, let me ask you, what is proportionality, Mr. Amro? Is it proportionality that now the Israeli army, the IDF, should take 200 people hostage, preferably Gazans hostage? Is that proportionality in your opinion?
Okay, let him respond.
And lastly, a question for Sanjay Jha. Because Sanjay Jha is such an observer of world history, Sanjay British committed war crimes on the Germans when they were dropping bombs to eliminate the Nazis? Because that too killed a lot of civilians. I think the people of Dresden would tell you that.
And
Would
and
you
Nagasaki
criticize the Allies?
and Nagasaki and Hiroshima, we forget. But anyhow, 1 minute. Let me first bring in Mr. Isa.
Okay.
Mr. Isa,
Okay.
Mr. Isa, please respond because I asked you a couple of questions. You said, and you must respond to Mr. Shahzad Poonawala. He's a leading Indian Muslim spokesperson also. So he has not got his, loyalties mixed up here. But I want to ask you. You said that Israelis have described their own government under Netanyahu as extremist. You said that. And we have reasons to believe so. How many Hamas, how many Gazans, how many Palestinians have described the occupation by Hamas on Gaza and Hamas as an extremist organization? Can you name me, sir? Has the Palestinian Authority done so? And if it has, then the debate is over, isn't it? Does the Hamas kill your leaders? Yes or no?
Okay, let me answer, please. First, Israel since October 7th kidnapped more than 2,000 Palestinians from West Bank.
Sir, I'm asking you a question, Mr.
Many
Amro.
of them are in administrative
does the
detention.
Hamas
please.
attack? Does the Hamas not attack? Does the Hamas not attack? 1 second. Does the Hamas not attack the Palestinian Authority, the PA? Has it not put to death several leaders of the PA? Has it held elections in Gaza? 2 questions to you.
Okay, I will answer, but I want to explain something he asked about.
But you're not answering my question.
More than 2,000. I will answer the questions. Just give me some time. Israeli military since October 7th kidnapped more than 2,000
Sir, you're not answering my question.
And
I have no reasons to look. I don't see the faces of those people on any wall. I'm asking you this fact. I'm asking you, is it a fact that the Hamas has killed leaders of the Palestinian Authority? Yes or no? Has it held elections in Gaza? Yes or no?
And Israel is killed many
there
Palestinian Authority leaders.
Here it is.
And killed many Palestinian civilians.
Here it is, QED. And let me also tell you, viewers, we have such a craven opposition in our own country that they give a platform to Hamas on their main rallies. Can you believe it, viewers? It is like giving the Lashkar-e-Toiba leaders a platform to speak at your rally. Mr. Isa has not responded to 4 questions I asked him. If the Israelis are so bad, why is it that Gazans go and work in Israel? No answer. Where are, as Shahzad Poonawala asked, the Jews that are living in most Arab states, where have they gone? It's like Hindus in Pakistan, viewers, finished, all gone. Why hasn't Egypt opened the border? It has never opened the border in the last 10 years. Because they fear the Hamas.
It's not Egypt. Israel bombed the border.
There you go. For 10 years it has been bombing the border. Who has built the gates? Sir, don't fool people. We are all educated and we all read. Don't come here with your ill-founded propaganda just to spread this pity. No, sorry. We all have hearts and it is cruel to see children being killed. And who are they being thrown under the bus by? By Hamas. They are terrorists, viewers. And Isa will not accept. Can you imagine he's sitting in the West Bank under the PA? The PA that has been brutalized. I'm not saying it. The Amnesty International is saying it. The United Nations is saying it. The United Nations has come out and said that the Hamas is a terror organization that has had a charter. I'm not saying it.
Are you a speaker or
I am now. You abuse me. Okay.
You should give us that time to talk, to explain.
I have asked you questions many times.
You should be a mediator,
sir,
a facilitator.
Mr.
Don't
Amro,
give us your opinion.
Mr. Amro, I have asked you several times to answer questions, but you are spreading false propaganda on the channel.
It's you. You are spreading false propaganda.
Is it not true that the United Nations has come out and said that the Hamas charter reads like a copy-paste from a terror manual? It is on their website. Go check it out.
And,
yes,
and
Sushant Sareen.
But you just called UN a joke.
The UN, not the US, the UN. Yes. Sushant
Rahul,
Singh. Yeah.
Just two very quick points. Again, one, I think Mr. Amro kept saying apartheid state, apartheid state. How do you define apartheid state? What was apartheid in the original apartheid? And look at Israel. I don't care what it's not important what Israel is doing with people who are not Israeli citizens. But Arabs and Muslims and Christians who are Israeli citizens, are they treated any differently? Are they not allowed to use the same transport like used to happen in South Africa? Can they not get government jobs? We've had Arab Israelis who have become Chief Justice or Justices of the Supreme Court. They've been in the Israeli army. They're all over the place, right? So to call it an apartheid state, I don't know what his definition is. Number one.
Viewers.
This whole concept of the blockade of Gaza. There are places in Gaza which are swankier than South Delhi or South Bombay. If Gaza was actually under this kind of a blockade, I don't see how people are getting those fancy cars from those.
Anyhow,
fancy
let me tell you, it's coming through the tunnels, Sushant Singh. We all know that. It comes through the tunnels. But let me also tell you, viewers, think about it. During the British Blitz, when London was being bombed to smithereens, the citizens were in, not homes. When the Blitz would begin, they would go into their underground. In Ukraine, that is happening. But in Gaza, viewers, who's going into the holes? Who's going into these tunnels? It's the Hamas. Can you believe it, viewers? The Hamas says, don't come. Palestinians, stay out. That is apartheid, viewers. In the face of a bomb, when you discriminate, that is apartheid. And that question Mr. Issa will never answer. He will never answer. Why is he sitting on top right now if he fears for his life and not in a tunnel? He won't answer that question. I'll take a short break.
Hello, Moto.
They are looking forward to government that they will take some sort of step, and after that Delhi will get some sort of relief from this particular pollution problem. I'm joined by a group here at India Gate who has come a long way from Pune to Delhi. आप लोग मुझे बताइए, साइकिल से आए हैं पुणे से दिल्ली तक और दिल्ली में तो प्रदूषण है, तो किस तरह से अब आगे देख रहे हैं और क्या कुछ कहना चाहेंगे इस पूरे कहें कि जो कंडीशन बन गई राजधानी की?
इधर तो हवामान बहुत खराब है. हमारे उधर महाराष्ट्र में पोल्यूशन नहीं है इतना बहुत ज़्यादा है
महाराष्ट्र. लेकिन अभी तो महाराष्ट्र में भी एयर क्वालिटी इंडेक्स बढ़ने लग गया है.
नहीं, हमारे उधर अच्छा है. इससे
बेटर है.
इससे बेटर.
क्या आपको लगता है कौन जिम्मेदार है इस समस्या के लिए, इस परेशानी के लिए कौन जिम्मेदार है? सरकारों की जिम्मेदारी है या फिर ये लोग जिम्मेदार है?
नहीं सर जी.
हाँ, कौन जिम्मेदार?
इसके लिए किसी एक को जिम्मेदार नहीं ठहरा सकते. इंडस्ट्री तो है ही, लेकिन हम आम लोग भी इसमें जिम्मेदार है. जैसे कि हम गाड़ियाँ ले रहे, गाड़ियाँ भगा रहे रोड के ऊपर. थोड़ा भी अगर चलना होगा तो हम गाड़ी लेके चलते हैं. इससे अच्छा है हम थोड़ा सा साइकिल का भी उपयोग करें. जैसे कि हम लोग अभी पिछले 4 साल से कर रहे हैं. कोरोना में जब फर्स्ट लॉकडाउन हुआ था उस टाइम पे हमने साइकिल चालू की थी. लेकिन कोरोना में जितने भी बीमारियां हो गई उसमें हम में से कोई 10-12 लोग हैं, इसमें से कोई भी इतना बीमार नहीं हुआ उसके बाद. और तब से हमने जो साइकिल चालू की, अभी 4 साल से पिछले साइकिल चला रही है.
पिछले साल हम बालाजी की राइड किए और इस साल 1,500 किलोमीटर चला के.
नहीं, साइकिल आप चला रहे हैं सेहत के लिए, लेकिन उसी सेहत के लिए बहुत बड़ा खतरा है ये पोल्यूशन. आप जो एक्सपर्ट हैं वो तमाम लोग सलाह देते हैं कि बाहर ना निकलें. आप साइकिल तो बेशक सेहत के लिए चला रहे हैं, लेकिन जितना सेहत के बचाव के लिए काम कर रहे हैं उतना ही सेहत खराब हो रही है बाहर.
नहीं वो तो है, लेकिन साइकिल चलाना हमारा रोज का ही मकसद है.
अच्छा, आप लोग अलग अलग काम
साइकिल चलाते हैं ना, तो साइकिल की वजह से हमको प्रदूषण का ज्यादा प्रभाव हम पर नहीं पड़ता है.
अच्छा,
क्योंकि हमारा ताकत बढ़ गया है. हाँ. साइकिल चलाने.
बेशक साइकिल चलाना अच्छी बात है, लेकिन मेरा दरअसल सवाल ये है कि साइकिल तो आप अपने कहें कि सेहत के ध्यान में रखते हुए चला रहे हैं, लेकिन उसी सेहत पे कहें कि कितना बड़ा खतरा है ये प्रदूषण, उसके बारे में बताइए, उसके विषय में बताइए.
अभी ये हुआ ही कि इसमें से ये जो प्रदूषण हो रहा है ना, इसमें से जो छोटे बच्चे उनके ऊपर ज़्यादा इसका इम्पैक्ट हो रहा है. जैसे कि आप देखें कि अभी दिल्ली में हम महाराष्ट्र से दिल्ली आ गए, महाराष्ट्र में कम था। हम मानते हैं कि मुंबई पुणे में ज़्यादा हो सकता है, लेकिन जो हम एरिया में रहते हैं, विलेजेस में रहते हैं, वहाँ पे प्रदूषण कम है। और यहाँ पे आने के बाद हमें पता चला कि दिल्ली में इतना प्रदूषण होता है। फर्स्ट
राजनीति भी हो रही है। जो बीजेपी और आम आदमी पार्टी सरकार हैं वो एक दूसरे पर आरोप प्रत्यारोप कर रही हैं और एक दूसरे को जिम्मेदार ठहरा रही हैं। आपको क्या लगता है, क्या ये सही है? राजनीति होनी चाहिए प्रदूषण की, कम से कम ऐसी समस्या जिससे कहें कि पॉलिटिशियंस भी प्रभावित हैं, उन लोगों के परिवार और वो लोग भी प्रभावित हो रहे हैं। आपको लगता है कि राजनीति ठीक है?
नहीं, राजनीति इस मैटर में ठीक नहीं है, क्योंकि हम सब लोगों को एक साथ जुड़ के इससे सामना करना चाहिए। अगर हम एक दूसरे को कोसते रहेंगे और एक दूसरे के ऊपर ये जिम्मेदारियां डालते रहेंगे तो ये कभी ठीक नहीं होगा। अगर ये सरकार बोल रही है, अगर बीजेपी वाले आम आदमी को बोल रहे हैं और आम आदमी वाले बीजेपी को बोल रहे हैं ना, तो ये सोल्यूशन कभी नहीं निकलेगा। हम हर एक को एक साथ खड़े रह के हमें ये प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करना।
With pollution levels lingering in the severe category, Delhi is struggling for fresh air. I'm standing at Kartavya Path and behind me is the iconic India Gate. This spot has become a prominent spot to check the visibility, and as of today we have a better visibility. You can see India Gate in the backdrop, where you are able to see India Gate from
Viewers, Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar has sparked a major controversy using crude analogies, gestures and sexist banter to explain the role of education and the role of women, educated women, in population control. He says when men do it, educated women know how to get pregnant. He said women should educate themselves to engage in sexual activity without getting pregnant. Nitish Kumar has been accused of objectifying women in misogynistic remarks. He has been accused of trivializing the issue of population control by using loaded sexual references. Viewers, we are not going to play out Nitish Kumar's bite. The way he used his fingers and the way others around him from his party and his alliance partners hooted, cheered, smiled and laughed crudely at these remarks has led to a massive outrage across the board. Tejasvi Yadav was asked this question, if he actually would step up to the plate and condemn Nitish Kumar. This is what he had to say.
एक बात बता दे, इसका कोई अगर कोई गलत मतलब निकालता है तो ये गलत बात है। एक तरह से जो भी मुख्यमंत्री जी का बयान आया जो सेक्स एजुकेशन के बारे में, और जब भी सेक्स एजुकेशन की बात की जाती है तो इसकी लोग जो है शर्माते हैं, हिचकते हैं, तो उससे लोगों को बचना चाहिए। तो स्कूलों में पढ़ाई होती है भाई, साइंस बायोलॉजी ये तो स्कूलों में पढ़ाई होती है, बच्चे पढ़ते हैं भाई। तो हमको लगता है अगर सेक्स एजुकेशन की अगर बात है, उनका कहने का मतलब आबादी कंट्रोल जो है क्या करना है, वो प्रैक्टिकली बात जो भी आती है उन्होंने अपना बात किया। तो इससे लोगों को गलत तरीका में नहीं लेना चाहिए, एतराज नहीं लेना, बट इट शुड बी मोर टेकन एज अ सेक्स एजुकेशन।
बहुत ही शर्मनाक और दर्दनाक, और मुझे लग रहा है कि आज तक के इतिहास में कभी भी किसी भी मुख्यमंत्री ने इस पर या किसी भी सदस्य ने माननीय विधानसभा या संसद में इस तरह की भद्दी गंदी टिप्पणी नहीं किया होगा। और महिलाओं का अपमान, पूरे मातृशक्ति को जो इन्होंने जिस प्रकार से अश्लील भाषा, मैंने वीडियो देखा, जो बात इन्होंने कहा है वो अत्यंत ही दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण ही नहीं बल्कि निंदास्पद है, और इनको अविलंब इस्तीफा देना चाहिए और पूरी देश की जनता से माफी मांगनी चाहिए।
तो जिस बात को कह रहे थे उसको और मर्यादित तरीके से कहा जा सकता था, लेकिन महिलाओं से संबंधित वो संवेदनहीन व्यक्ति हैं, महिलाओं के प्रति उनके नज़र में कोई सम्मान नहीं है।
Viewers, of course, this controversy is not going to go away. Tejasvi Yadav has already come out and spoken in defense of Nitish Kumar, but if we could make you listen to the crude manner, the words that were used by Nitish Kumar, the sentiments that were expressed, you would have also been appalled. You would have been appalled because it is not expected of a senior politician of the stature of Nitish Kumar, the Chief Minister of State, to trivialize the issue of population control by using crude rhetoric and worse, sexist banter to suggest that the onus is only upon one sex, that is women, to carry the burden of ensuring that India's population doesn't exceed. Viewers, equations between the sexes are today at a parity. You cannot suggest that men can have their way, but women must constantly be chaste and responsible. At least that's what seems to have come through from what Mr. Nitish Kumar has said. He is yet to respond. I'll leave it at this. Anand Narasimhan with the right stand coming up next.
But on the other side, we have Rashtrapati Bhavan. In fact, this is the Kartavya Path, and in fact, you can get an idea of the visibility that Rashtrapati Bhavan, which in general days is visible from this particular spot, is invisible today. And in fact, when we talk about the conditions in the national capital, so we know that how the fourth level of graded response action plan has been invoked, several sort of measures, several sort of steps have been taken by the state governments. In fact, schools have been shut and all other things. In fact, yesterday, Environment Minister of Delhi announced that how Delhi is going to implement odd and even scheme for the vehicles here. After that, a lot of deliberation is onto the fact that how there are several factors that are contributing to the pollution levels in the national capital. Once again, if I can show you the view, there you see people have come here for the morning walk, in fact for the cycling, but as of now, because of the pollution problem, in fact, experts say that this condition is very dangerous, very harmful for not only those who have some sort of respiratory disease or respiratory problem, but also for those who are healthy people. As of now, everyone is looking forward to all these steps taken by the government, because people here in the national capital are waiting for some sort of relief, that they are looking forward to government that they will take some sort of step, and after that Delhi will get some sort of relief from this particular pollution problem. I'm joined by a group here at India Gate who has come a long way from Pune to Delhi. आप लोग मुझे बताइए, साइकिल से आए हैं पुणे से दिल्ली तक, और दिल्ली में तो प्रदूषण है, तो किस तरह से अब आगे देख रहे हैं और क्या कुछ कहना चाहेंगे इस पूरे कहें कि जो कंडीशन बन गई राजधानी की?
इधर तो हवामान बहुत खराब है. हमारे उधर महाराष्ट्र में पोल्यूशन नहीं इतना बहुत ज़्यादा है.
महाराष्ट्र, लेकिन अभी तो महाराष्ट्र में भी एयर क्वालिटी इंडेक्स बढ़ने लग गया है.
हमारे उधर अच्छा है, इससे बेटर है.
क्या आपको लगता है कौन जिम्मेदार है इस समस्या के लिए, इस परेशानी के लिए कौन जिम्मेदार है? सरकारों की जिम्मेदारी है या फिर ये लोग जिम्मेदार है?
नहीं सर जी.
हाँ, कौन जिम्मेदार?
इसके लिए किसी एक को जिम्मेदार नहीं ठहरा सकते. इंडस्ट्री तो है ही, लेकिन हम आम लोग भी इसमें जिम्मेदार है. जैसे कि हम गाड़ियाँ ले रहे, गाड़ियाँ भगा रहे रोड के ऊपर, थोड़ा भी अगर चलना होगा तो हम गाड़ी लेके चलते हैं. इससे अच्छा है हम थोड़ा सा साइकिल का भी उपयोग करें, जैसे कि हम लोग अभी पिछले 4 साल से कर रहे हैं. कोरोना में जब फर्स्ट लॉकडाउन हुआ था उस टाइम पे हमने साइकिल चालू की थी, लेकिन कोरोना में जितने भी बीमारियां हो गई उसमें हम में से कोई 10-12 लोग हैं, इसमें से कोई भी इतना बीमार नहीं हुआ उसके बाद. और तब से हमने जो साइकिल चालू की, अभी 4 साल से पिछले साइकिल चला रही है.
पिछले साल हम बालाजी की राइड किए और इस साल 1500 किलोमीटर चला के.
नहीं, साइकिल आप चला रहे हैं सेहत के लिए, लेकिन उसी सेहत के लिए बहुत बड़ा खतरा है ये पोल्यूशन. आप जो एक्सपर्ट हैं वो तमाम लोग सलाह देते हैं कि बाहर ना निकलें. आप साइकिल तो बेशक सेहत के लिए चला रहे हैं, लेकिन जितना सेहत के बचाव के लिए काम कर रहे हैं उतना ही सेहत खराब हो रही है बाहर.
नहीं, वो तो है, लेकिन साइकिल चलाना हमारा रोज का ही मकसद है.
अच्छा, आप लोग अलग अलग काम
साइकिल चलाते हैं ना, तो साइकिल की वजह से हमको प्रदूषण का ज़्यादा प्रभाव हम पर नहीं पड़ता है.
अच्छा,
क्योंकि हमारा ताकत बढ़ गया है साइकिल चलाने।
बेशक साइकिल चला। This is the Kartavya Path, and in fact you can get an idea of the visibility that Rashtrapati Bhavan, which in general days is visible from this particular spot, is invisible today.
मैं केजरीवाल जी से कहूँगा कि इस पर राजनीतिक नौटंकी जो करना है वो नहीं होनी चाहिए। आप वो राजनीतिक नौटंकी में बड़े माहिर हैं।
सुप्रीम कोर्ट का निर्देश आएगा, उसको फिर इनकॉर्पोरेट करते हुए उसके अनुसार हम अपनी योजना को बनाएंगे।